the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, Innovation and Strategic Partnerships, Registrar, University Librarian, Provost, College of Medicine, Dean, Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry, Deans of other faculties, the postgraduate school and of students, Directors of institutes and centers, Heads of departments, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The 418th in the series of University of Ibadan inaugural lectures will be delivered by Professor Eustace Iyayi of the Department of Animal Science on behalf of the Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry. And this may as well be the last inaugural lecture from the Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry as presently constituted. Born on 15 September 1958 to the family of Mr. Augustine and Mrs. Grace Iyayi of Uromi, Edo State, Professor Iyayi had his primary education at St. Mary Primary School, Uyele, Ekpoma, Edo State, and his secondary school education at Ishan, now Esan Grammar School, Uromi, from 1968 till 1972. He completed his higher school certificate at the famous Edo College, Benin City, Edo State, from 1973 till 1975. Later that year, he was offered admission to the University of Ibadan, where he studied agriculture and graduated with a BSc honors degree in agricultural biochemistry and nutrition, animal science in 1978. From 1978 to 1979, he participated in the National Youth Service Corps scheme as an assistant quality control manager with the Nigerian Tobacco Company, and later with the Ministry of Agriculture, Sokoto, in Sokoto State. Thereafter, he taught briefly at the Bishop Kelly College, Benin City, after which he returned to the University of Ibadan for his postgraduate studies in 1980. He obtained his MSc degree in agricultural biochemistry and nutrition in 1981 and enrolled for his doctoral studies in swine nutrition in 1983. He was awarded his PhD degree in October 1986. Prior to his career in this university, Professor Iyayi served as a research fellow at the Institute of Agricultural Research, Rivers State University of Science and Technology at Onne from 1988 to 1990. Between 1990 and 1993, he served as a lecturer in the Department of Physical Sciences and as head of the Biochemistry Unit, Egerton University, Joro, Kenya. Thereafter, he served as a postdoctoral fellow at the International Livestock Center for Africa, ILCA, now International Livestock Research Institute, ILRI, Nairobi, Kenya, from 1993 to 1994. He joined our Department of Animal Science with effect from 21st October 1994 as a lecturer grade 1. He rose rapidly through the ranks as he was promoted senior lecturer with effect from 1st October 1997 and professor with effect from 1st October 2002. Till date, Professor Iyayi has over 119 publications comprising journal articles, conference proceedings, and book chapters, and he has successfully supervised 18 doctoral graduates, among whom 3 are now professors, over 52 MSc students, and numerous BSc students. Within this university, Professor Iyayi has served in several capacities, including but not limited to being a departmental undergraduate coordinator from 1994 to 1997, departmental postgraduate coordinator from 1997 to 1999, two-time chairman, faculty practical year training program, 2000 to 2002, and from 2002 to 2004. Editor-in-chief, Ibadan Journal of Agricultural Research, 2012 to 2014. Head, Department of Animal Science, from 2006 till 2010, and Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry, 2014 till 2016. He also served as chairman, ad hoc committee of the Committee of Provost, Deans and Directors on Institutional Affiliation to UI, member of Senate since year 2000, and he has served on several Senate committees. He was Senate representative for the Senior Staff Housing Committee from 2012 till 2014. Member of the University Central Laboratory Administration Committee, 2010 till 2014. A member of the University Ethics Policy Committee in year 2010. Outside this university, Professor Iyayi has served, among others, as visiting scientist Research Participant Agreement at the Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, Earthbridge Research Station, Alberta, Canada, 2008 till 2012. Fulbright Senior African Research Scholar at Purdue University, Indiana, USA, 2011 to 2012. He has also served as external examiner in several universities, including the University of Benin, Benin City, Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, University of Ilorin, Njala University, Sierra Leone, and University of New England, Armidale, Australia. Professor Iyayi is a recipient of several merit and academic fellowship awards, and he has been reviewer to several journals, including the Nigerian Journal of Animal Production and the British Journal of Poultry Science, UK, and the Poultry Science, USA. Even though he's not a politician, he served as INEC returning officer for Igbo Federal Constituency, Oyo State, at the 2015 general election to the Federal House of Representatives. He is currently the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Institute of Animal Science based in Abuja. He is happily married to Evelyn, and the marriage is blessed with a child. It's now my pleasure to call on the former Dean of Agriculture and Forestry and former HOD Animal Science, Professor Iyayi, to deliver his inaugural lecture titled, "Whatever goes on inside is revealed outside, the case of nutrient dynamics and sustainable animal productivity." Professor Iyayi.
The Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellors, the Registrar, Provost College of Medicine, the Dean, Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry, Deans of other faculties of Students' Affairs and of the Postgraduate School, Directors of Institutes and of Centers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor bestowed on me to be invited to give this inaugural lecture to this equally great audience on behalf of the Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry. For this, I give all the glory to the Almighty God. This is the 8th inaugural lecture from the Department of Animal Science and the last from the Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry, as we have been told by our Vice Chancellor. For with effect from August 1st, 2017, the Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry will split into the Faculty of Agriculture and Faculty of Renewable Natural Resources. The National Universities Commission approved this split on 13th of July 2016 during my tenure as Dean, after the application was first submitted in 2010 during the tenure of the erstwhile Dean, Professor F.K. Ewete. The successive administration of Professors Ayelari and Togun pursued the split further, and then Professor Agbeja, head of Forestry Department, and myself yet pursued it until it materialized 6 years after in 2016. Senate on July 18, 2016 set in motion the machinery for the amicable split. It is therefore a rare privilege to have the opportunity to present this last inaugural lecture of our great faculty. But Mr. Vice Chancellor, I am by no means an undertaker, for that job is reserved for Professor B.O. Omitoyin, the current Dean of the faculty, who will bring the hammer down on the faculty in a few days' time. From creation, one issue that has always engaged the attention of man is self-sustainability in the sense of self-preservation, and the central drive of self-preservation being what will man eat to stay alive. Thus, agriculture has always been central to man's survivability, for without food, we will all go extinct. We all know the dynamism of agriculture in response to societal needs over the decades. Even in our present time, we see this dynamism in play. Because man's need for food is constantly changing, with respect to kind, type, form, and quantum, agriculture has always been in motion to answer to the new requirements. New plant and animal types have to be produced through science and innovation that will meet the needs of the changing human population. How far agriculture is able to meet food needs of man will depend greatly on our mode and speed of response to such needs. Human population in 2015 is estimated to be 9.15 billion, and most of the increase is projected to take place in the developing countries. Nigeria's population, the population of Nigeria is estimated to hit 470 million in 2050. The country will be the third most populous nation after India and China. At the same time, food production will need to increase by some 70% by that same year. This implies significant increases in the production of several key commodities. Annual meat and milk production, for example, will have to grow by over 200%. No nation can industrialize successfully without first achieving a leap in agricultural productivity to a level where the people are food secure. In the 1960s, agriculture contributed up to about 64% of the total GDP, but this has gradually declined over the years to what we have presently of 21% of agriculture in our total GDP, with livestock contributing a mere 1.62% to the GDP. Now, this has been as a result of dependence on oil. But the fall in oil prices last year had brought our economy to near comatose. We have consistently been a net food importing nation. For example, Nigeria produces 10 billion eggs annually, which translates to about 5 eggs per person per month. But we still have deficit. We produce 2.7 million metric tons of rice, but our deficit for rice is about 6 million metric tons. We produce 1 million metric tons of fish, but yet we have a deficit for fish need of about 2 million metric tons. Even the cassava that we pride ourselves in as the world's #1 producer, cannot give us cheaper gari because our yield is still very low. Thailand, for example, does 45 tons per hectare in cassava, but we post a mere 20 to 25 tons per hectare at best. So we are food insecure. Therefore, the urgent need to diversify our economy has gripped everyone, with emphasis now being placed on agriculture, which is the very sector we started our country with. Within the agricultural matrix, Mr. Vice Chancellor, the livestock sector has surprisingly remained almost neglected. While, for example, there are at least about 8 crop-based research institutes in the country, there is only one for livestock, and that's the National Animal Production Research Institute in Zaria. So the livestock subsector needs to be boosted in order to provide adequate protein for our people. As shown in figures 3 to 9 overhead, the production of cattle, poultry, pigs, sheep, goat, meat, milk has been on the increase in the last decade, though this increase has not really matched the corresponding population increase. The gaps in Nigerian livestock production are many. Nigeria, with a population of 182 million people, is grossly unprovided with essential food components like protein, which is important for the realization and development of human potentials, both mentally and physically. Data indicate that less than 2 kilograms of beef is available to an average Nigerian per year, and just a mere 4 kilograms of eggs is available to a Nigerian per year. In fact, milk production has nosedived in some years, or at least has remained constant since 1994. But there are opportunities for investment as a result of these gaps. These opportunities are in the following area. 1, gross shortage in the supply of cattle products at the moment from both local production and importation. 2, there is high demand for meat and dairy products. And 3, there is need for ranches at this time. Cattle farmers in Nigeria are predominantly nomads and rural dwellers from the northern region, and about 85% of the cattle population is in the north. and 90% of the national is in the hands of the Fulani pastoralists. Incidentally, there have been fatal clashes between the Fulani herders and their host farming communities in the southern region for grazing land. But in a recent expert dialogue meeting under the auspices of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, FAO, Nigerian Institute of Animal Science, Pastoralist Reserve, and other stakeholders, the possibility of transformation of grazing reserves to ranches was thoroughly examined, and the outcome of that meeting is currently given very important attention by the relevant authorities. The poultry industry in Nigeria. Nigeria has the highest number of poultry farms in Africa. Poultry meat and eggs are the most consumed animal protein unrestricted by any religion or culture in Nigeria. Nigeria presently produces about 300,000 tons of poultry meat per annum and 650,000 tons of eggs. Despite this volume, Mr. Vice Chancellor, Nigeria is far from meeting her domestic demand for poultry products. In comparison, countries like Brazil produces over 13 million tons of poultry meat, China 13.5 million tons, and the United States above 25 million tons per year. South Africa is the second producer of eggs in Africa. They stood first in broiler production in Africa with 1.5 million tons per year, which translates to 28.8 kilograms per capita per year. This compares to Ghana's 2.07 kilograms per capita per year, and Nigeria's mere 1.7 kilograms per capita per year. Our current egg production per annum is valued at 220 billion naira. If 50% of our population consumes one egg daily at an economic value of 1.7 billion naira, the annual derivable income is about 620 billion naira. All these, Mr. Vice Chancellor, are indications that Nigeria's potential for wealth creation from poultry industry is far from being tapped. There are challenges and setbacks in this industry, but handling these challenges will make us prepare for the successes that this industry portends. Very few institutions, for example, in Nigeria, teach modern poultry training. The experts in Nigeria are scarcely patronized, and therefore this gives the occasion for dependence on quacks and outdated methods, which is one of the great perils that befalls this great industry. We also have the problem of the environment, which imposes stress on our animals. Then we rely so much on obsolete equipment, and of course, there is a problem of irregular electricity supply. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I will take the few next minutes to outline some of my researches and contribution to the livestock industry. Increased demand for animal protein due to increased population in Nigeria has necessitated increased livestock production. However, most of the essential sources of vital nutrients for animals also serve as sources of food for humans and some manufacturing industries. Since last year, and indeed in recent times, the prices of maize and soybean, for example, have gone up by about 300%. This situation has been perennial and therefore necessitated intensive investigation into the use of alternative sources of energy and protein ingredients for production of monogastric animals. For several years, Mr. Vice Chancellor, Tewe and I investigated the possibility of processing cassava roots, peels, leaves, and even tender stems into good animal feed. Concerted and sustained efforts in this regard culminated in the processing and use of cassava peel in pig feeding, with an established level of 40% replacement for maize in pig diets and 10% inclusion of cassava pulp meal in poultry diets. Cassava leaves have also been processed and used in pig and poultry feeding. Other unconventional feedstuffs reported to be of economic value in pig and poultry production include cocoa pod husk, kola pod husk, brass dried grain, maize offal, and palm kernel meal. Similarly, progressive work has been done in an effort to find alternative legumes to soybean meal for poultry feeding. In this regard, Iyayi and Egareba established that when the seeds of mucuna, a legume with high potential for poultry and pig feeding, is subjected to further processing by heat treatment and sprouting, its digestibility is improved by about 92%. Further studies in practical feeding of this legume to broilers, in which the seed meal replaced soybean meal, levels of up to 33% replacement for soybean meal were found to elicit good performance in broilers. Research in ID protein and amino acid ratio. Due to the low protein contents in most of our unconventional feedstuff, it becomes necessary to look beyond the protein content, but rather the profile of amino acids in the ingredient of feed, and much more specifically, the ratio of these amino acids to lysine. Lysine is traditionally used as a reference because it's the first limiting amino acid for growth. Our investigations on the ideal methionine to lysine ratio for broilers show that birds that receive dietary protein as low as 17 to 20%, but with IMLR of 47 to 52%, performed as well as those that received the standard diet of 23%. Further studies by the authors also showed that such diets had the best immune response against infectious bursar disease and Newcastle diseases, with higher antibody titers than those that received the control diet. The benefits of this result, Mr. Vice Chancellor, is that feedstuffs that are of low protein content can enter the feed formulation metrics as long as attention is paid to the ideal ratio of the amino acids to lysine. Research with enzymes. Enzymes in their natural form have the ability to take reactions from one level to another, usually improving on the substrate. Realizing the potential of these biologics to enhance animal performance, my research in this area initially focused on the role of exogenous enzyme in animal performance. I was initiated into enzyme research by my academic mentor, Professor Olumide Tewe, who upon my doctorate graduation in October 1986, took me in his car to the then Roche company at Dokpemun in Lagos. On getting there, he bought some packets of 2 kilogram Rosazyme G enzyme and gave them to me and said, I want to set you off on a career path in a new field of enzyme research. Nevertheless, blank as I was at that time in enzyme metabolism, I took the packet from him and I said, sir, I will do my best. This trip to Lagos eventually led to studies which resulted in our production of enzymes in solid state. Using exogenous Rosazyme enzymes, studies with finisher broilers showed that supplementing diets with Rosazyme, a commercial polysaccharidase in which 50% of the maize has been replaced with cassava peel meal, produced the same performance as well as all maize diet. Together with other workers, this same trend was observed when we fed malted sorghum sprout supplemented with Rosazyme in rats. These studies and several others provided a clue of how enzyme work to enhance animal performance. The unconventional feedstuffs have their energy locked up in carbon bonds in their structures called non-starch polysaccharides, which are long chains of monosaccharides linked by glycosidic bond. The action of the enzymes is traceable to their ability to rupture these bonds and release the monosaccharide units as glucose, galactose, mannose, or as the case may be, for eventual energy production through the tricarboxylic acid cycle. The gastrointestinal tract of the animal does provide the optimal condition for which these important cleavages must take place. Dr. Lossell of blessed memory at Sheffield University and I investigated the ability of some tropical fungi to secrete enzymes that will enhance the nutritive value of cassava byproducts. All the fungi that we used showed potential to increase the protein and energy of cassava products. The yeast Saccharomyces cerevisiae, demonstrated the best ability to enrich the pills with a change of about 172% in the sugar content at day 7 and 193% at day 21 in solid-state fermentation. This was followed by Aspergillus niger, Mucus strictus, and Rhizopus miehei in that order. Cellulose was significantly reduced in all the agro wastes by all the fungi after 14 days. Mr. Vice Chancellor, this established period is currently adopted for use in enzyme fermentation studies in laboratories involving agro byproducts of this nature. These studies, Mr. Vice Chancellor, indicate the possibility of enhancing the feeding value of these byproducts by a simple, inexpensive, and easily adaptable technique. Mr. Vice Chancellor, my desire to establish a fungi culture bank in the department was frustrated by incessant power failure, no thanks to the then NEPA, no electric power always, which has now transmuted into GENCOs and DISCOs, or should we say discotheques, for only in semi-lit or semi-dark environments do discotheques thrive. I lost some of the culture slants I came with from Sheffield, but my friend, Professor Nilude of the Department of Botany and Microbiology came to my rescue by providing me with some slants with which I was able to continue work again, and my research gained traction in that direction. Thank you very much, Prof. Isolation of fungi. Thank you. Isolation of fungi and enzyme extraction. Moving from commercial enzymes to the natural microbes from which they are produced, I now focus my research on the possibility of extracting enzymes in solid state from tropical fungi for use in improving feedstuffs for animal feeding. One major question that engaged us in our research group at this time was how pure enzymes locked up in the entity of the microbes can be gotten out. We reasoned that the presence of an entity in a medium under certain conditions can set off a reaction that will lead to production of a second entity which has ability to act on the first entity that caused the elicitation. Based on this theory, Mr. Vice Chancellor, and in collaboration with Professor Bola Adeniyi and Dr. Adaramoye, our goal was to obtain pure enzymes from fungi using substrates to elicit the production of the enzyme in solid state. Aspergillus niger, Trichoderma viridi, and Rhizopus stolonifer and Mucormycido were obtained from the Department of Botany and Microbiology. With further treatment and reactions that we worked at, as shown in the flow chart, we were able to invent a system for the production and isolation of the crude and purified enzyme. This process is currently undergoing patent. Mr. Vice Chancellor, the World Poultry Science Association acknowledged this work in our department, and I was invited to do a special review on the subject for the association's journal, and also invited to present the work at the annual conference of the British Society of Animal Science the following year. Phytase, probiotics, and prebiotics for nutrient utilization. Rice feed meal, a byproduct of rice milling, was also studied. It's also referred to as rice husk, rice bran, or rice offal, and the organic matter content, gross energy, water-insoluble NSPs and water-soluble NSPs, as well as the mineral concentrations, were analyzed in our laboratory. A digestibility trial with broilers after phytase enzyme supplementation showed improved total tract mineral digestibility and significantly reduced phosphorus excretion. The presence of glutamic acid, a glucogenic amino acid, which is involved in gut health maintenance, indicates that including rice meal feed in monogastric diets has a potential of influencing energy metabolizability while also enhancing the gut health. Mr. Vice Chancellor, this byproduct can then be a valuable asset in the rice production value chain, as our results demonstrated. When phytase was supplemented to broiler diet, significant improvement was obtained in feed intake as well as feed conversion ratio, and apparent phosphorus digestibility increased. The excretal phosphorus decreased with phytase supplementation. Cowpea, which contains phytate phosphorus and other nutrients like amino acids, which are poorly digested in broilers, was supplemented with microbial phytase, and we discovered that it helped to improve the digestibility of these nutrients. Thus, supplementation of cowpea-based diet with microbial phytase improved the physical digestibility of phosphorus, crude protein, and amino acids in broilers. The ability of probiotics and prebiotics to replace antibiotics and also for organic acids to replace antibiotics and to modulate the digestion and absorption of nutrients and improve gut health was investigated. Prebiotics such as fructooligosaccharides and galactooligosaccharides are naturally found in many foods. In our laboratory, Omidiwura et al. Investigated the effect of prebiotics and probiotics on the performance, carcass measures, and gut integrity of broiler chickens. In summary, dietary inclusion of probiotics had a growth-promoting effect with improved performance and intestinal morphology. Probiotics and prebiotics could therefore serve as an alternative growth promoter to antibiotics. Further studies by Agbola et al. On the effects of organic acid probiotics and their combination as a replacement for antibiotics on performance and gut morphology in broilers were investigated. Organic acid and probiotic were found to improve the gain to feed, body weight, dry matter intake, and feed conversion ratio. Therefore, supplementation of broiler diet with organic acid or probiotics does improve their growth and gut morphology better than antibiotics, with a greater positive effect at the starter phase for broiler production. Mr. Vice Chancellor, what really goes on inside the animal? Having looked at what is available to the animal to eat so that it can grow well, and some of the extra assistance it gets by way of additives, it was of interest to know how the animal utilizes the nutrients in the feed presented to it to give the production traits observed externally. For example, if broilers and layers are able to increase the digestibility and intake of, say, protein and amino acids, we will need to include less of, say, expensive soybean, fish meal, or maize in the diet, and thereby reduce cost of production and also reduce amount of harmful substances like phosphorus and nitrogen that are passed into the environment. In a bid to answer these questions and several others, I redirected my research to looking at the pattern of digestibility of nutrients inside the animal using the technique of ileal digestibility and regression analysis. This technique, Mr. Vice Chancellor, is like traveling with the feed along the GIT and noting the amount of nutrients that is taken by the animal at each session. It simply traces the digestibility and retention of nutrients along the GIT by using a marker such as titanium dioxide, chromium dioxide, or acid-insoluble ash to mark the feed, or using carbon or nitrogen isotope to mark the animal. With either the marker or isotope method, it was possible to determine the precise amount of nutrient that is digested and or retained as the feed passes along the GIT. Based on the principle of inverse ratio, the amount of marker and nutrient recovered in the feces or excreta gives a proportion of the nutrient that is digested or retained as described in the following equation shown overhead. Since digestibility is highest in the ileum, which is the small intestine, and precisely in the last to third section of the ileum, that is between the Mecker's diverticulum and the ileocecal junction, a series of studies were conducted to determine the digestibility and retention of nutrients from several of our common feedstuffs used for monogastric feeding in Nigeria. We reasoned that successful estimation of nutrient digestibility in feedstuff could lead to an increase in the number of feed ingredients that can enter our feed resource base for our monogastric animals. Several studies on the ability of phosphorus and amino acids in lesser-known legumes like Enterobium cyclocarpum and Mucuna purens, as well as Centrosema pubescens, were carried out. Pre-sickle crude protein digestibility, feed intake, and growth rate were significantly increased in the heat-treated Mucuna and Centrosema diets. Thus, based on our results and based on the crude protein content and amino acid profiles in the seeds, the potential of these seeds of the future for poultry feeding was revealed with a level of 150 grams per kilogram in broiler diets recommended. Standardized and true ileal digestibility. A major proportion of commercial poultry diet is made up of cereal grains and co-products of oilseeds. When we feed these products, a perplexing situation exists in which a greater proportion of the phosphorus is unavailable to the beds. The efficacy of phytates in improving phosphorus availability in non-ruminant animals is directly linked to the efficiency of utilization of the phosphorus and production of the animal. This same principle applies to the utilization of amino acids and other essential nutrients. Measures of ileal digestibility were used routinely as estimates of amino acid bioavailability in feeds, either as standardized ileal digestibility or true ileal digestibility. Lack of additivity of the apparent ileal digestibility values in feed formulation may be overcome by correcting them for basal endogenous loss, and this will use the standardized ileal digestibility. But the basal endogenous nutrient loss can be measured in digestibility experiment leading to the calculation of SID. The use of the regression techniques in which the amount of nutrient digested is plotted against nutrient intake takes into account the confounding effects of both the basal and specific endogenous nutrient loss, with the slope of the regression equation representing the digestibility coefficient for the nutrient. Both the SID and TID can then be computed as coefficient of the amount of nutrient intake to derive the digestible amount of the nutrient using the following relationship that we derived. Mr. Vice Chancellor, based on this concept, it becomes possible to have an inkling of what really goes on inside the animal and to know precisely the amount of nutrient the animal is able to digest in each of the feed ingredients within the diet. Using such information, it becomes possible to formulate diets that deliver the precise amount of nutrients needed by the animal to eat, thereby minimizing wastage and cost. This, Mr. Vice Chancellor, our work has opened a new vista in animal nutrition, contributing to the heralding of the technique of precision feeding. Standardized ileal digestibility of our local feedstuff. Apparent ileal digestibility of crude protein and amino acids and digestible crude protein and amino acid of fish meal in 21-day-old broiler chickens using the regression technique, as explained earlier, has been reported by Agbola and Iyayi. Based on the TID approach, the amount of digestible crude protein in fish meal was calculated to be 63.6 grams as against 72 grams currently being used for formulation for broiler starters. So our work has actually been able to show that you can save 9 grams for fish meal, for example, when formulating for broilers. The values, the values for other ingredients, such as millet, corn bran, palm kernel cake, wheat offal, wheat, maize, soybean meal, groundnut cake, and rice bran, have also been reported by the authors. Comparison of broiler performance when fed diets formulated based on digestible rather than total crude protein showed that body weight gain was significantly higher in birds-fed digestible crude protein diet than those that were fed total crude protein diet. Therefore, it shows that formulating diets for broiler chicks using digestible crude protein of the contributing ingredients resulted in better performance and lower feed cost to weight gain of the birds compared with formulation based on the total crude protein as is currently being practiced. In a series of experiments at Purdue University, Iyayi and Adela reported the standardized ileal digestibility values for several Nigerian feed ingredients for broiler starters. Using the nitrogen-free method, the SID values for crude protein and all the 22 amino acids in maize, sorghum, full-fat soya, fish meal, peanut meal, and wheat bran have been reported as shown in the table above. Thus, using a method that enables one to determine precisely what goes on inside the GIT of the animal, it becomes possible to determine the exact amount of crude protein and amino acid or any other nutrient to be delivered to the animal. Similarly, Mr. Vice Chancellor, the standardized ileal digestibility values of crude protein and amino acid of an array of Nigerian feedstuffs, such as maize, millet, sorghum, wheat, corn bran, fish meal, palm kernel cake, wheat offal, soybean meal, groundnut cake, and rice bran for broiler finishers have been determined in our department and in my lab group. These have been validated and available for use by feed producers in formulating and compounding feed for broilers. Use of cystectomized birds. Working with colleagues in the Department of Veterinary Reproduction and Physiology, the use of cystectomized laying hens for estimation of ileal digestibility of nutrients in feed was explored. We were able to successfully remove the cecum from laying hens and stabilize the birds post-surgery and use them in our ileal digestion experiment with soybean meal for determination of crude protein digestibility by the regression technique. The reason for this, Mr. Vice Chancellor, was to find another method of doing ileal collection without having to destroy many chickens as it happens when broilers are used. Due to the confounding effect of the microbes in the cecum on further digestion of protein and amino acid post-ileum, it is necessary to collect digester pre-ileum. But we reason that if we remove the cecum, what then happens is what passes out as excreta will have the same characteristic as the ileal digester. When we ran studies with our cystectomized birds, in comparison with intact broilers, the results of the protein and amino acid digestibility represented by the slope of the regression graphs were similar. The significance of this, Mr. Vice Chancellor, is the ability to use the same birds for repeated studies over a long time, with the birds still being able to produce eggs. Mr. Vice Chancellor, similar methods based on this principle are now in use in laboratories in Australia, Europe, and the USA today. True ileal digestibility values for our feedstuff. In two feed ingredients, cowpea and peanut meal, the true phosphorus digestibility at the ileal level was determined. The regression technique was also used in the experiment with cowpea and peanut. The true phosphorus digestibility were determined to be 47% without phytase and 64 with phytase for cowpea, and 67 without phytase and 75 with phytase for, respectively, for peanut meal. The application of these percentage values, Mr. Vice Chancellor, to correct the total amount of phosphorus gives the true digestible phosphorus digested in each of the ingredients with phytase and without phytase, with phytase, of course, having a positive effect on the digestion of the nutrients. Applying this same principle that we derived of true digestibility, the amount of digestible phosphorus in our feed ingredients were derived. Since it is not physiologically permitted to feed phosphorus-free diet to animals, we therefore used the regression technique, and we were able to estimate the amounts of digestible phosphorus in feedstuff. We did this by postulating several statistical relationship and equation, and we arrived at a model, which is shown overhead. Thus, applying this statistical model, it becomes possible to look inside the animal and determine how much of the phosphorus the animal is able to digest and retain from a specific feed ingredient. We apply this concept to determine digestible phosphorus in soybean meal, groundnut cake, sesame seed meal, with phytase and without phytase. And also, furthermore, the same model was tested and used to estimate the true digestible phosphorus in cotton seed meal and rice husk with vitamin D3 as supplement. These values represent the amount of phosphorus truly digested or retained in the beds. Using the precise amount digested is economically advantageous because lesser amounts of the source of phosphorus are required in the formulation, unlike the current practice of using the total amount of the nutrient in the source as estimated from the proximate or chemical composition analysis. Our work with hindgut energy in cannulated pigs. Estimation of energy utilization in pigs was also carried out using the Iyayi digestibility principle. Iyayi and Adela, using cannulated pigs, were able to derive the energy that is available to the pigs from feed in the upper GIT and also available from the short-chain fatty acids in the hindgut from wheat bran, which was our test ingredient. We found that there was an increase in energy from 10.7 to 24% as dietary neutral detergent fiber level in the feed ingredient increased from 75 to 147 grams per kilogram. Thus, increasing the energy dietary NDF results in reduced energy digestibility in the foregut of the growing pigs with a corresponding increase in the amount of energy from the microbial fermentation in the hindgut. Mr. Vice Chancellor, the procedure and results of this study can then be applied to estimate the energy contribution from different ingredients to pigs when their neutral detergent fiber is already determined. Conclusions and recommendations. Mr. Vice Chancellor, the University of Ibadan has a huge challenge in leading the academic sector of this country in helping our economy to rebound and propel. No nation can develop without robust research for the needed innovations and inventions that lead to new products and new services can only spring forth on cutting-edge research. New breeds of animals, feeds, efficiency-enhancing processes, and best practices in agriculture generally can only emanate from incisive and groundbreaking research. And University of Ibadan must lead the others in this direction. There is little interaction, excuse me. There is little interaction between our parent ministries and our departments of faculties in our university. This situation puzzles me, for in my various travels, stay, work, and research abroad, I see a very strong link between government, organized private sector, and the university. I therefore advocate a stronger interface between the faculties of agriculture and the Federal Ministry of Agric, and the recent approval to relocate the universities of agriculture back to the Federal Ministry of Agric is a welcome step in this direction. The agricultural promotion policy of the present government, which is to build on the 8th year of the last government, should be taken to our faculties of agriculture and the details explained so that they can better participate in the execution. Number 4, Nigeria does not have a livestock census. How can the government plan for the livestock sector without knowing the number of animals we have. This country urgently needs a livestock census. Livestock has only one research institute, as I mentioned earlier, and that is NAPRI. Ever since, that is NAPRI. The livestock sector will move with great leaps and bounds if NAPRI is unbundled into the 5-Species Research Institute as recommended by the Vision 2020 Committee. This recommendation should be implemented without further delay to give the following institutes: Poultry Research Institute, Beef Research Institute, Dairy Research Institute, Sheep and Goat Research Institute, and Swine Research Institute. Nigeria, as at now, has no animal breeding policy. Efforts to have one in place over the years have not been successful, but the recent effort, there is, however, light in the tunnel because the Nigerian Institute of Animal Science, the Animal Breeders and Geneticists Network of Nigeria, and the Department of Animal Husbandry Services at FEMA have been able to put a policy in place which is undergoing stakeholders meeting right now. And we sincerely hope that the adoption of this policy will turn around most issues bedeviling the livestock production in the country. The university, through the last administration, Mr. Vice Chancellor, and the present one, has done well to resuscitate the teaching and research farm in our university here. But Mr. Vice Chancellor, a lot still needs to be done. I know that funds are very short. The farm suffers incessant and prolonged power shortage, and this makes it very difficult for animal science students to carry out experiments on the farm. The university administration should please give the teaching and research farm a dedicated line of power supply. I also call for the separation of the teaching and research farm to 2 directorates, that is the crop teaching and research farm and the livestock teaching and research farm, and the upgrading of the livestock teaching and research farm and the upgrading of the livestock teaching and research farm directorate to a status equivalent to our teaching hospitals as in human and veterinary medicine. Because the LTRF caters for the training of animal scientists who are a group of professionals recognized by our law. The support of the postgraduate school for postgraduate students' research should be expanded. I know they have been doing a lot in this regard, but a lot still needs to be done. The central laboratory should be strengthened to enable it to expand its operation. I am a firm believer that the central laboratory can be a very good source of income for the university. I draw a parallel here with the Missouri Center in the USA, known all over the world for just amino acid analysis and earning millions of dollars for the center. The university should explore a wide range of operations through the Office of International Program to make it possible for agricultural students to visit other faculties abroad so that this will help them in upward mobility in their study and after-school career. Acknowledgement. Mr. Vice Chancellor, at this junction, I would like to appreciate all those who have contributed to my life and career. My first appreciation is to our Almighty God, the only wise, omnipotent, and immortal one, he who lives from eternity to eternity, the one who does not change yet changes things and situations. He alone deserves to be praised and glorified for the opportunities he gave to me to do all I've been able to do and still doing. Great are you, Lord, and greatly are you to be praised. I thank my father, Mr. Augustine, and my mother, Mrs. Grace Iyayi, both of blessed memories, who could not wait to witness this day, having been called home to be with the Lord at the appointed time. I'm grateful to my brothers and sisters, Dr. Steve, Mrs. Teresa, Barrister Helen, Barrister Greg Iyayi, Barrister Dan, and also all the members of the larger Iyayi family for the support I have received from them. I'm very grateful to our Vice Chancellor, very amiable Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka, who I always describe as a community man. He's quiet but very tough inside. I've always known him to be a goal-getter, and I pray that the Lord will continue to support you, sir, as we move this university to a greater level. Together with members of the administration, sir, I say thank you for the opportunity of this lecture. I thank my academic mentor and father in research, Professor Thank you. Professor Olumide Odeleye Tewe. I'm the only one who knows the middle initial. Odeleye Tewe. Please, Mr. Vice Chancellor, with your kind permission, I would like to ask Professor Tewe to rise for special recognition. He has been my supervisor and guidance all along, and also my mentor. Thank you very much, sir. I'm glad that you are alive to see this day. I'm grateful to my dean and brother, Professor B.O. Mitoyin. I'm also grateful to all my colleagues in the department, especially my head of department, Professor O.J. Babayemi. All the professors in the department and my rest colleagues. I also especially thank Dr. Oyabu, who made it possible. He gave me information that made it possible for me to visit Sheffield. I'm grateful to all the students of the Department of Animal Science. I'm grateful to the staff and students of the faculty, especially the Dean's Office staff, who supported me greatly during my tenure as Dean. I'm grateful to Dr. Iyayi, Professor Sowade Taiwo, in vet, Professor Onilude, who helped me with the slants of micro, Professor Korua. I'm grateful to the Rivers State University of Science and Technology, where I started my career. I'm grateful to Egerton University. I'm grateful to Erie, where I did my postdoctoral fellowship. I'm grateful to my collaborator in the US, Professor Adeola, Dr. Adedokun. I'm grateful also to Professor Rodo Hoscott of Hohenheim University. I'm grateful to Professor Paul Iji, University of New England, Armidale, Australia, Professor Abade, and Dr. John Barr of Best Technology Environmental Edmonton in Canada. I'm grateful to the financial support that I received from the German Academic Exchange Service, DRD, and also the Royal Society Fellowship of Britain. I'm grateful to the Alexander Humboldt Foundation. I'm grateful to the Austrian Ministry, External Affairs Ministry. I'm grateful to the Israeli government through the Marshall Award for a travel fellowship to Hebrew University in Rehovot. I'm grateful to the Canadian government for a 2-year visiting fellowship at Lethbridge. I'm grateful to the Fulbright program for the award of the Senior African Fulbright Fellowship to Purdue. I'm grateful to Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Obed, the pioneer pastors of the Glory Tabernacle Ministry, Ibadan, under whose spiritual tutelage God has done marvelous things in my life. Thank you very much, man. Dr. Mrs. Obed is here to represent a pastor. Thank you, man. I'm grateful to all Professor Akimbola, our current general pastor, the elders of GT, Brother Israel, the Dinobas, Professor and Mrs. Adedapo, and all the brethren in GT. I'm also grateful to Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Paul Eneche, my pastors at Dunamis, currently in Abuja. I'm grateful to members of Council of the Nigerian Institute of Animal Science, especially Professor I.F. Adu, is here in the midst of us, and also Professor Njoku, Dr. Yedeji, Professor Adesenwa, Pastor Taiwo, President of Animal Science Association of Nigeria. I'm thankful to the heads of departments at NIAS, management staff, the zonal development officers, all the families of NIAS and ASAN animal scientists in the country and in the diaspora. I'm grateful to all my students over the years. I thank most especially those in my laboratory group. Over the years, we have worked together, among them 18 PhD graduates, 3 of them are now professors. I am particularly thankful to Dr. Mrs. Adebise Agbola, to whom I have handed over the affairs of the laboratory, of my laboratory group, for her able leadership since I took leave to answer to national call, and also assisted by Dr. Omidiwura and Dr. Odu. I'm grateful also to the students, Antonia Fada, Patience Fada, Adeswa, Ibidun, Pascal, Ibokun, Francisca Ichep, Okpe Balogun, who have been my helpers along the way. I am grateful to my parents-in-law, Chief and Chief Mrs. S.J. Bello, and indeed the entire Bello family. They are fully represented here. They gave me their beautiful daughter, Evelyn, as wife. Since our first chance meeting at a JC Long meeting in Port Harcourt in 1988, she has been not just a loving wife, but she has remained my close friend and confidant ever since. Thank you very much. I'm grateful to our wonderful son, Oseme Jesse Odambo, very close friend of mine who always understood why Daddy had to be away from home frequently during my academic pursuit. I thank all my friends and associates whom I cannot mention their names there due to time and lack of space. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I would like to end this lecture in the words of George Washington, the first American president who reformed agriculture in America starting in his town of Mount Vernon. He laid the foundation of American greatness, and he himself was a great farmer and animal husbandry practitioner. He said, and I quote, "I know of no pursuit in which more real and important services can be rendered to any country than by improving its agriculture, its breed of useful animals, and other branches of a husbandman's care." Thank you, and may God return you safely to your destination. God bless you.